You don't need to do that. I don't think that'd be rude.
It's okay. No, it's okay. Yes. Good morning. Wait a minute. I got do this. Good morning, everyone. Okay, we are now starting our recording. So we're asking our visitors on Zoom to mute themselves. And that way you can sing along with Bill as he begins the service with a joy song. Okay, Bill.
Light the candle, the flame beside our bed. Sometimes the flame's too much to handle. That's what you said. That's what you said. Because you've been trying, yeah, baby. Follow me, watching every move, matching every turn. Your hazel eyes, they don't miss a thing. They hold me like the sun going down. Want me like a fire outside. Till I heard just as big as that love light in your eyes. You never turned away. Oh, never taught lady sky. You were eager to say the most at sea. I saw it in your eyes when you looked at me so openly. Your hazel eyes, they don't miss a thing. Hold me like the sun going down. Warm me like a fire in the night. Without sound. The first time I saw your laughter, break loose inside and tumble out to me. My heart did it violence after, and it came so easily. We should know. After all, so hard in the heavy time. Now days go by like best friends storyline. Yours and mine. Your hazel eyes, they don't miss a thing. They hold me like the sun going down. Warm me like a fire in the night. Without a sound. Your hazel eyes, they don't miss a thing. They hold me like the sun going down. Warm me like a fire in the night. Without a sound. Without a sound. Without a sound.
Oh, Bill, I think Jan's going to tell you it's kind of breaking up a little bit. And it was a beautiful, beautiful song. So.
That's one of my favorite love songs.
Well, you're going to have to sing it again. Anyway,
I do
not tonight, not today. I could tell. Tell me what the name of it was.
Well, it's actually named Green Eyes, written by Kate Wolf, and Jan's eyes are hazel, and so I changed the word.
Aw, Bill.
Aw.
Oh, that's an awe for sure. Okay, well, now you can go back to mute again, except you're on in just a few minutes. But so this is how we start our services. with an opening prayer. And it's our little candle. And as we light the Christ candle, we acknowledge the presence and power of the Christ energy that lives within each of us, that energy force. We are it, and it is us. How grateful we are, and so it is. And now Bill will sing Surely the Presence and Lord's Prayer.
Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel his mighty power and his grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel her mighty power and her grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the light is in this place. And the Lord's Prayer. Our Father and Mother, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us debts as we forgive our debtors, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from heaven. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever.
Bill. It's an oh. Thank you, Bill. I enjoyed singing with you.
I heard you singing.
I was muted. You heard me.
Well, I guess I saw you singing.
I was too, and
Yeah.
and of course, yes, thank you, because I would be very nervous because I intend to try to sing. Well, anyway, here we go. Thank you, Bill. You're wonderful as always. And so now I'd like to go ahead and read our invocation affirmation. And this is who we are. There is only one presence and one power active in my life, God, the good, omnipotent. There is only one presence and one power active in unity, Clear Lake Center, God, the good, omnipotent. And finally, there is only one presence and one power active in our world, God, the good, omnipotent. And the basic ideas of unity is the foundation of unity. So let's go. Number one, God is absolute good, everywhere present. Human beings have a spark of divine spirit within them, the Christ consciousness within. Therefore, they are inherently good. Human beings create their experience by the activity of their thinking. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. And prayer is the process that affirms our connection with God, mind, and brings forth wisdom, healing, and everything good. And finally, knowing and understanding universal laws, also called truth, are not enough. A person must also live the truth that he or she knows. And then we continue, Bill, with some music. Okay, I'm going to mute.
Well, this is an especially favorite one of mine. It was written by a songwriter friend, and it's probably the best song he's ever written. So I'm pleased to sing this for Dutch Hannon. And this is a tearjerker, so you might want to get out your cleaning. So a different kind of love. We have both been in love. This wasn't our first time. We both had stood up for better, for worse. You had your family, I had mine. We didn't know we were in love for the last time. We've been through so much, life's troubles before. In love, times are bad. You've gone, but I'm not sad. You're the only love I had. I will see you again. We know where, we just don't know when. A place where our love never ends. I will see you again. I will see you again. One of us had to go first. Being second is always the worst. We both knew after one was gone, who lived would have to be strong. It's always the living that must carry on. I will see you again. We know where, we just don't know when. A place where our love never ends. I will see you again. I will see you again. We know where, we just don't know when. A place where our love never ends. I will see you again. I will see you again. I will see you again.
Yes, you're coming to church on Easter, I heard. So I'm going to say, I'll see you again, Phil. We will see you again. Anyway, thank you, Phil. You're wonderful. Okay, well, now I'm going to read, yes, the daily word. And I am reading the one that's on Valentine's Day, February the 14th. On love, that's the topic. I celebrate and share God's love. Frilly paper hearts, greeting cards, flowers, and candies. There are so many ways to bring my love to my dear ones. These tokens of affection, some touching, others tender, share the message of my heart. They also remind me to share my love freely and generously. I need not wait for a special occasion to let others know how I feel about them. I do not stop at showing love to those who are close to me. The love that is in me has its origin in the heart of God. As divine being, this love is part of me and mine to share. I see the world through the eyes of love. I speak gently and act humanly. I do not hesitate to help, and I find joy in service, kindness, generosity. There are so many ways to bring love to everyone. From 1 Corinthians 6:14, let all that you do be done in love. And so, I realized that I actually should have, let me see for a minute. Oh, no, I'm on speaker view. Okay. Well, this brings us to the time to introduce I am so honored. We are so honored today to have Reverend Bob Brach as our first time speaker here at our church. And he lives now in Sacramento with his wife, Marge, who is also a Unity minister. And so what we're going to do, well, going to give it over to Reverend Bob. Hey, and thank you in advance. So I'm going to mute myself. And here we go. Wherever is that?
All right, thank you, Barbara. Thank you, and it's great to be here. And wow, well, this week is actually an auspicious week. Starting with today. Today is Super Bowl Sunday. And not being a great follower of football, this is about the only day of the year that I actually watch a football game. In high school and college, I was a wrestler and I was a wrestling coach, and seems like we always lost out to the football players. Anyway, today, Margie and I will be with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law watching the game. And on Wednesday is Valentine's Day. And also, Wednesday is Ash Wednesday, the start of our season of Lent. So, the Unity Worldwide Ministries sends out these pamphlets on Lent, the Lenten booklets. And, if you've taken on and ordered one for yourself, I hope you do. And if not, Charles Fillmore has a book called Keep a True Lent. And if you're really interested in going deeper and deeper into the Lenten process, this is the book for it, because there's devotionals for every day. And, look at how thick that book is. So, and you can work through it during the 40 days of Lent. Well, it's great to be with you, and I want to talk about love, and love is one of our 12 powers. The 12 powers are those 12 mental faculties that make up the Christ of our being, and love is one of them. It's represented by the Apostle John, whom Jesus loved, and in our heart center. The Apostle Paul wrote to the Colossians about love, and he said the virtues of faith, of hope, and of love, but the greatest of these is love. One of the things I like to do is look at why we're doing certain things. And one of the things is, the history of Valentine's. Where did their Valentine's Day come from? Well, doing a little research, it came from a legend about a guy named Valentine. He was a Roman priest, and he helped marry Christians, which was against the law back then. So the emperor had him jailed. And the emperor kind of took a liking to Valentine. And he would call him in and talk to him. Well, Valentine made a critical mistake. He tried to convert the emperor. Well, he got sentenced to die. And one of the things he did while he was in prison, he cured the blindness of the jailer's daughter. And supposedly, on the way to his execution, he had written a letter or a note to this gal, and she had signed it, Love, Valentine. There was also a Roman fertility festival on February 15th called Lupercalia. So it's kind of a mixture of this theme of love right in the middle February. In the Roman Catholic faith tradition, which I was brought up, they have patron saints. And patron saints are assigned to cover various groups of people. And growing up in my early years, St. Jude Thaddeus was my favorite patron saint. St. Jude was the patron saint of hopeless cases. Well, you can see where my consciousness was at that time. Well, St. Valentine, he is a patron saint of various groups of people. Engaged couples, beekeepers, people with epilepsy or fainting issues, love, lovers, plague, and young people. And one of the things about Valentine's Day is Valentine's Day cards. It started back in 1840 with a gal named Esther Howland. She was the first one that commercialized these Valentine cards. And according to Hallmark, over 180 million Valentine cards are purchased. 50% of them within 6 days of Valentine's Day. It's a procrastinator's holiday, man. And the cards are to express our love. And I learned early on the value of sending a Valentine. When I was first married, and I'm on my third marriage, but this is the first one, I was in my early 20s. I was on active duty in the Coast Guard. I was stationed in Baltimore, Maryland. My wife and I lived in Glen Burnie, Maryland. And on Valentine's Day, sitting down at the breakfast table, there was a Valentine's card, a little Valentine's gift, and in front of her was nothing. I figured, hey, we're married. We don't have to do that stuff anymore. Any of you guys that are listening, don't do that. I knew by the sad look on her face that I was in deep trouble. So she called her mom, and her mom called my mom, and my mom called me, and she chewed me out worse than any chief petty officer in the Coast Guard had ever chewed me out as an enlisted man. She said, your father never did that. You make sure you buy cards. So I figured if one is good, two's got to be better. So every holiday, Valentine's Day, Christmas Day, whatever it was, I bought 2 cards. One to my wife and a second one to my sweetheart. Well, one time we came home for Valentine's Day, and I think I flew home later. My brother-in-law at the time picked me up at the airport, and we stopped at the drugstore in Oak Park, Illinois, on Lake Street. And I can still remember going in there. I was in my sailor suit, and at that time, Coast Guard enlisted, we wore those little Cracker Jack outfits, like the Navy calls them Cracker Jacks, like on the back, the sailor on the back of a Cracker Jack. The little flap on the back, our neckerchief, and the 13-button pants. So I go in there and I buy my 2 cards. And I go up to the register, and there's 2 gals behind this big gold old-time cash register. And I laid my cards down, and these gals look at them, and they pick them up, and they pay them, put them in an envelope, and they give it to me. And as I turn to walk away, one turns to the other, and she says, those darn sailors are something else. See, they thought it was for 2 different women. They didn't realize it was for the same woman. Wow. We say, in English, we say, I love something. I love my Margie. I love my coffee in the morning. I love going trap shooting with my brother-in-law. I love watching our Netflix streaming on this new series we call it Kaminsky method. But, there's 4 different objects of this love. And they're always not the same type of love. Now, the ancient Greeks had a better approach for it. They had 4 different words for love. They had eros, which is romantic love. And that's probably what most people mean when, they have a big smile and they say, I'm in love. Second one is storge, love of family, because, we have a common bond between family and extended family. We love our parents, brothers and sisters. Philia, love between friends. Our city, Philadelphia, brotherly love. It's being with people that we enjoy. And finally, agape, love of community. And there's an interesting adjunct to this. It's the love that is capable of acting in a hostile environment where there are no warm and fuzzy feelings. Capable of acting in a hostile environment where there are no warm and fuzzy feelings. And this Eros love, I can see it in my own life, connecting with Margie. We worked together at this office in county office in Stanislaus County. I invited her out on a date and we start dating. She's the one that invited me to the Unity Church and probably the reason why I'm here and a Unity minister. And, sometime we got married on January 6th. And this past January, we celebrated 22 years of being married, which is great. Storge love, and Margie's family, her mom and dad have passed, but at one time there was her mom and dad, her sister and her husband, and then her sister and her partner. There were 6 of us. So, we would have our get together at my sister-in-law's house, and it was love there. Love together because of this common connection of a family bond. And then Philia. It's interesting. I was looking at that, and I was looking at Myrtle Fillmore. She learned to love her body. And then she learned how to pass, because she got healed, and she learned how to pass it on to her neighbors. And I'll be telling a brief story about her and one of her neighbors. And finally, agape. And probably the best example of agape is Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and what he called the beloved community. In the Bible, Jesus talks about love. And in the Gospel of Luke, he tells us to agape our enemies. That means being capable of acting in a hostile environment with no warm and fuzzy feelings. And a writer of the Gospel of Matthew says that we should agape our neighbors as we agape ourselves. That kind of love that is capable of acting in a hostile environment without any warm and fuzzy feelings. In 1992, a book came out by a gentleman named Dr. Gary Chapman called The Languages of Love. Now, Dr. Chapman was a marriage counselor for over 30 years, and he saw various ways in which people demonstrated their love. And as I was thinking about his book, I remember a story about an older couple, Abe and Sophie. Abe was always in the habit of making Sophie's lunch. One day they sat down at lunch and Sophie looks down at her sandwich and she says, "That's it? I want a divorce." And Abe's going, "Honey, what do you mean?" She said, "You always make my sandwich with the heels of bread. I hate the heels of bread." And Abe says, "Sophie, I love the heels of bread." So not only did they miscommunicate on their languages of love, but they miscommunicated on communication, sharing about what mattered to them most. In the book, Dr. Chapman, he identified these 5 areas of love. 1 is acts of service. 2 is receiving gifts. 3 are words of affirmation. 4 is physical touch. And finally is quality time. Now, that's not necessarily 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the order of importance, but there's 5 different times. And the important thing is, how do we know what another person's love language is? And the way we do that is by looking at how that person shows love. Again, kicking back to the Bible, there's a story of Martha and Mary. And these are 2 sisters. And Jesus went to visit them. And while they're visiting, Martha is off in the kitchen, fixing all the food and whatever, being a good Jewish hostess. Mary is sitting at the feet of Jesus, listening to him talk and preach. Well, Martha is getting a little fed up. She's in there working her fanny off, and Mary's out there in the living room, and she says to Jesus, "Hey, tell my sister to get involved out here." And these famous words that he says, "Martha, Martha, thou art busy about many things. Mary has chosen the better choice." And a little adjunct story to that, when I was in grammar school, Catholic grammar school, every time they passed out our report cards, Monsignor Roan, the head of the diocese we're in, would come in and pass out these. And Martha McNally, who was kind of like my first heart's lame, was in my class. And Monsignor Roan would always start off reading about, when he picked up her card, and saying, "Martha, Martha, thou art busy about many things." So, and I think as Martha got older, she was busy about many things. So, another thing is about the story of, so that was Martha, acts of service, Mary, quality time. And the story of Myrtle Fillmore and one of her neighbors, a big Irishman named Caskey. Now, Myrtle had to shift her way she's giving love. When she was first a young person, she was told she was very sickly and she had to be carefully kept. And the way that she received love was being a sickly child. Well, she heard this lecture by a visiting metaphysician, and she heard that she was a child of God, and she did not inherit sickness, and she started praising her body. She learned to love her body. So she began to affirm the goodness that was in her body. And later on in life, her neighbors saw what was happening to Myrtle and said, "Hey, what happened to you?" And Myrtle wanted to share this. So she got a hold of this Irishman named Caskey, who was walking with crutches, and he wanted to walk without him. And she kept working with him, having him affirm and affirm. And finally, she told him, "Caskey, you can do this. Get up and walk." And so he did. He got up and walked. So Myrtle changed from receiving these sickly things to words of affirmation, and she passed it on to Caskey, who was receiving gifts. And finally, Dr. Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King on April 15th, 1960 in Raleigh, North Carolina, had said this, which is recorded to what he had said. "There is another element that must be present in our struggle that then makes our resistance and nonviolence truly meaningful. That element is reconciliation. Our ultimate end must be the creation of a beloved community, creation of a beloved community." So he was talking about love that transcends, where there's no warm and fuzzy feelings. And there definitely was no warm and fuzzy feelings in a lot of part of Dr. King's life. And if you've been keeping track of that, Reverend Bob, you missed physical touch. Well, some time ago, when I was in Modesto, this is my BU days before Unity, I was at Big Valley Grace Community Church, a big New Testament church, 3,000 people. And I had volunteered to be a greeting on Sunday morning. So I'd stand on the church steps, and as people would come up, I'd put my hand out and say, "Welcome." And it's interesting, how people come up, they're coming up the stairs, they got this glum look on their face. And when I said, "Welcome," and put my hand out and they shook my hand, man, a smile came over their face. That idea of physical touch helped make the shift. And some years ago, I had a girlfriend who was a beautician. And she said, "Sometimes I'm the first person or only person that week that actually touches another person. And boy, I can feel how they feel about it." So, well, today we talked about love. We looked at some different stories. We looked at the different words that the Greeks used for love. We looked at the 5 ways that love languages are expressed and some examples for that. So namaste, dear ones. And as we move forward today, I invite you to remember the Master's teaching, Jesus' teaching about love our neighbors as ourselves. This is agape love. That's love that's capable of acting in a hostile environment where there's no warm and fuzzy feelings. So, dear ones, let's move into our period of meditative reflection. And I invite you to sit comfortably on your chair, gaze softly at your computer screen, or close your eyes. Bring our attention to our breath. Notice the gentle rise and fall of our breath. The ancient Hebrews had a word for breath called ruach. And ruach was also the word for wind and for spirit. So as we inhale spirit, I invite you to breathe in spirit. Let that spirit without connect with that spirit within. And as we let the gentle play of music on our ears, we become more and more inward, connecting with that divine spirit within. And bringing our attention to our heart center, that physical organ that represents love in our community. Love. And if there's any part of our body temple that needs that healing hand of love, I invite you to see spirit-filled, love-filled blood flow into that part of our body temple that needs that healing hand of love. And see that area of our body bathed in a blue-white light bubble of healing energy, bringing about healing at the right and perfect way and in the right and perfect time. And if there's anything in our life, any person, place, thing, or event that needs that healing hand of spirit in our life, I invite you to see very clearly in your mind's eye that person, that place, that thing, that event that needs the healing hand of love, and see it bathe in this blue-white bubble of healing light and energy. Now let's bring our attention back to our heart center. And Jesus of Nazareth, our way shower, when asked by his disciples saying, Lord, teach us how to pray, told him to go within, shut the door to the closet of their being, to shut the door to the outside world, and listen in silence for that small, still voice. So we've gone to the closet of our being, our heart center. And we take some time in the silence to listen for that small, still voice, or perhaps images floating across the screen of our mind, or thoughts floating across our mind, as we gently rest in the silence. And now, bringing our awareness back to our physical bodies, feeling the press of our feet upon the floor, our body against the chair. Perhaps in that time of silence, we heard something like a small, still voice, or images flashed across the screen of our mind, or thoughts flashed across our mind, or perhaps not. But we have made ourselves open and available to spirit. And perhaps later today, a phone call from a friend, an email, a book we're reading, a movie we're watching. Spirit will speak to us in diverse ways and means about what is ours to do as we move forward in this wonderful week in which we celebrate that power of love in our world and within ourselves. And so now we open our eyes, dear ones, and we're present for the rest of our service. And so it is. Amen.
And so it is.
Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Lots of things to think about, lots of good things. Thank you very, very much. This was just really terrific getting to listen to you for the first time, and hopefully we will see you again, or Marge, right? It'll be wonderful. So let me go ahead now with announcements, and just to let you know and remind you, because you all got the newsletter, that next Sunday, Patricia Holler's talk will be at church, of course, Lent, the time of letting go and opening up. But we are also going to have at the conclusion of that the annual church meeting. And so it's not going to be a long one, just to kind of update you on what's gone on the previous year and our finances, and all the things you do in a meeting. Just a short one. And that will be followed by a potluck and fellowship that of course everyone stays for. So that annual church meeting, big event next week. And then the following Sunday, a Zoom service with Carrie Hillary. You know how terrific a speaker she is, but then she also has her own original positive pop music that she shares with us. And so that at the end of the month will also be something to look forward to. Life is good. So those are some announcements. in the future talks. And now that, of course, the donations are greatly appreciated always. And mail to Unity, P.O. Box 755, Lower Lake 95457. And so we're going to do the prayer for protection. And we turn it back to ourselves when we say, the light of God surrounds us, but then I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is. Because all is wonderful. All is wonderful. And before Bill sings his closing song soon, I want to remind you that we do have chat time afterwards. Questions for Bob, questions in general, sharing whatever, prayers for other people, whatever comes up during our chat time. That will be after Bill sings the closing song. We will all unmute at that time. Thank you, Bill.
Sorrow and let it be with me. Let there be peace of mind, the peace that was meant to be with God as creator. Find all of me. Let me walk with my family, perfect harmony. Let this be a moment with every step I take. Let this be my joyous life. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let it be